Hello, I'm excited to be with everyone today for the newest podcast of Grief, Good Grief. And I'm excited to have the opportunity to talk with one of my favorite people, Troy Rulymr. Good morning, or good afternoon, actually. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for letting me come on.
No, thank you for coming on. I just want to say a little bit about you and your company and what you've done for me before we get started for your work in the grief work. Troy came to me through a friend as to be a business coach for me, and he came like a knight in shining armor. I needed desperately what he needed because I was getting ready to like big stretches and starting a school, doing a book, making a website, all these amazing things. So as a business consultant, he was amazing. He's now done a little transitioning and he's a tax and business consulting firm. So it's
A little bit of growth,
a little
just a
bit of
little bit.
growth there. That's awesome. Growth is always good. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about your journey with grief, with doing the work with me. So, my first question is always like, what drove you to feel like you wanted to do the work?
Um, I think it's interesting. My guess would be that you don't have a lot of clients that start like I did. So when you were introduced to me, I thought, yeah, this is a really niche, kind of cool concept, and I'm always open to helping small business. It's kind of where my company started, and really just to kind of get into it and build foundations. And you had a lot of business needs, which is very normal, right? And I was kind of lucky because at that time you were also thinking like, how do I develop a book? And you wanted kind of this resource that you could support your clients with. And at the same time, you're also like, how do I develop this class and this school? And how do I create more Cynthia's? And so we got to explore a lot of that. And being completely honest, when I met you, I had no idea what that looked like. I didn't know grief work. Um, I had experienced a lot of talk therapy. I would argue probably more than the average person,
Yeah.
and really have an aversion to it because I just felt like I never got anywhere with it. It just going round and round, circles and circles. And oftentimes I just felt really guilty that I never got any action from that
Yeah.
because it always seemed to land on, well, you're broken. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, what's wrong with me? Um, and then I experienced kind of a tragic event. My wife at the time, her cousin, was experiencing kind of the end of life stages of brain cancer,
Oh, yeah.
and he was significantly younger than us, um, which is just it's so traumatic,
Yeah.
right? And then he passed. Um, And anytime a young person passes in such a tragic way,
Yeah.
it it creates a heavier load, right? I mean, I remember when my grandmother passed, and she was amazing, but she was 92.
Yeah.
Like she lived a pretty darn full life, and it's one of those things where it's like there's grief there, absolutely, but there wasn't tragic grief.
Yeah.
And so I remember coming back from that, and we had been developing your book. And like I was learning about all of the things, and I think I was just kind of shocked by like there's so much action I could take.
Yep.
There's so many things I can do that yes, I get to work through this stuff, but I also get to like actually move on it. I actually get to strengthen and grow and process, and it's no longer this Ferris wheel of talk therapy. I came back and I was just kind of like, I think I need to be a client. And you're like, I think you need to be a client. I'm like, I guess I'm a client. You're like, you're a client. And that's kind of how we started the process, which my guess is most people don't get the preview, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is not the summer blockbuster. Like, I don't get to sit through the preview of the movie theater. I really did get to kind of see the value of what you did before I got to experience the value of what you did. Um, and I think that that was important for me, just as someone who's skeptical of all therapy, just
Yeah.
because of my experience. But also, you know, I'm also going to attribute like I got the reward of having built a relationship of trust with you, which was implicit in our agreement as far as consultant and business owner.
Yeah.
And so I really built upon that platform. But um, then it was all in.
Yeah.
Like there was pedal to the metal. There was no hesitation. After I came back from that funeral, it was pretty much we need to work this out.
Yeah. I'd love to speak to that myself because in my way, I had done a lot of therapy, talk therapy, and there were valuable pieces that like, okay, that makes sense. I was, an adult child of an alcoholic. La, I was codependent. La, and I'm doing these things, and there's some help when I went to, some 12-step meetings for codependency, just like, okay, want to understand this, but I still felt like okay, now what? What are we supposed to do? And I think I was in the right place at the right time. Like we were just talking, what you need comes along, right? And the
Yeah.
therapist I was seeing, who was an MFT, I mean, been an MFT for a while, got certified in grief therapy. And I'm kind of in the same thing where I'm talking about my grief again because I haven't found a way to move beyond it. She goes, really like this. I was like, she's like, stop. She gets up, she goes out, she comes back with a grief book. She goes, buy this book, read some of it, come back next week. This is what you need to do. I devoured that book. I came back and I said, this is why we're not better. Like we don't know how to, we don't have recovery components that help us to let go, and they work over. And sometimes you have to work through them in a different angle. And you need, I think, the extra tools that comes from the program that I put together. However, when you put that together, it's so powerful. And I love it when clients come back and say, yeah, I did do a lot of this, but this is what really made the difference. Because
Yeah.
that was exactly my experience. And when I was done doing the work, she said, you need to do this work. And I'm like, I think the word would be damn straight. That's what I felt. So it's awesome when I hear clients, replicate that idea that that's what they had had. Because some people come to me and I'm their first person, and I'm like, wow, okay, great. Because
Yeah.
I can send you all the books that I want you to read and all the things that I think, oh, like personality isn't permanent. This is one that will totally resonate with the work we're doing and where you're going and what we're doing. So that's fantastic. So what I'd like to know is, as you did the program, there, we do a lot of different things in there. There's timelines, there's tools, there's, we do NLP, we do a lot of different things. What were some of the things that really supported and stuck out to you?
So I've been thinking a lot about this just because I knew this conversation was coming up and you kind of gave me the two questions. And I realized something about myself that is maybe a silver lining, but also potentially challenging to my relationships and my personality is that in my life, I tend to move on with stuff.
Mm,
You hurt me, you mean, you are um, rude, you are whatever, fill in the blank. I generally tend to get over it pretty fast. Like that stuff doesn't really stay with me. But I realize I also did that with all of my trauma, my whole life. And because I didn't have the tools, I never processed any grief, really, until I had met you, right? And if I had to like point out one tool that was like, I already knew I wanted to do the work, but then I kind of saw what was on my plate. It was the timeline.
yeah,
And I saw, wow, I let that go and I let that go and I let that go. And by the end of it, I had a timeline that looked like the crater of the moon, right?
yeah,
Everything was blown out and destroyed and yet I was holding on to these relationships that weren't serving me and I was trying to put in effort and work into them still when
yeah,
I should have distanced and separated and created healthier boundaries. And all of that was like my big whoa aha moment.
yeah,
Like, oh, these things do not serve me.
yeah,
And they haven't served me for a long time. And yet I keep them going
yes,
because I didn't know any better. And I didn't have the tools to say, this is unhealthy and it's created a lot of grief and it created a lot of trauma. Um, and then really identifying that like there was a core belief behind that and that I was unlovable. I'd trained myself to think that. Um, And really identifying that language, that was probably my second biggest tool. Because then once I have that language, well, I can address it. It's right in front of me. That's easy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
easy, right?
Easier.
But at least it was something to really start to work through.
Yeah.
But the timeline was the pivotal moment for me. Like being able to see you have just allowed all this stuff to happen. And because you haven't addressed it, because you haven't put the appropriate boundaries in place, because you didn't change the language of the fear and the desire to have a tribe, but distancing yourself because of your past. Like I was literally living in a never-ending infinity loop,
Yeah.
right? And so that was like the big shift. And then it was like, I am lovable. Wow. And oh my gosh, they're not toxic boundaries, they're healthy boundaries now
Yes.
because I'm lovable and I can put those in place because I am lovable and I don't have to placate you.
Yeah.
I don't have to be the people pleaser. I don't have to say yes to everything just because you requested it. Um, and I mean, subsequently, and if I was a business owner, this would be a huge testimony, but my business grew,
Yeah.
my earnings grew, my network grew to the point where I became part of a large company merging my business into it because I gained confidence and set healthier boundaries and really built something of value of my own life. And not to say that my life didn't have value before. Everyone has value. You're human, right?
Yeah.
But it really allowed me to move forward in a way that I had never been able to move forward before. Um, and that's a huge testimony. I mean, I think that at first blush, I think that a lot of people could see this as like way out there or pretty woo. Um, and I found it to be one of the most practical things I've ever experienced. And I'm not a out there kind of guy. Like I'm in the corporate world. This is what I do. I build businesses. I help them build infrastructure. You don't play in fantasy. You play in hard concrete data and metrics and people, right? Um, and I'm eternally grateful for one, the opportunity to do the work, but two, um, what I was able to accomplish because of it.
Yeah.
Like it was basically like it filled all the holes in the foundation that I had tried to create, but couldn't because I didn't have a tool to process that change or process that grief or process that trauma.
Yeah. I love that you hook the fear and the grief together because that is something that I we talk about later on because they've proven, grief and fear are hanging out in the limbic system. And guess what? The fear feeds off that grief. And that's what, ultimately tells us, hey, you big loser, don't do that because da 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 da. And when you start squishing that grief, the fear seriously is starving. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what I think.
Well, and that fear combined with the grief, combined with the trauma, that's what creates that endless cycle.
Yes,
And
yes,
that's it doesn't serve anyone.
yes.
And which is why I've sent you several referrals because the work needs to be done. If I could make a requirement, like force every single client I had to do grief work, I would do it.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's a personal journey and you have to come to it when you're ready. But there's so much, like people just can't understand how much value there is for being able to process your trauma, process your grief. And I've had so many people poo-poo it. Oh no, I'm fine. No, no, you're not. And but that's okay because we have to
yeah,
make space for those
yeah,
who need to come to it themselves. But even saying that, like the process of going through the grief and learning all of these things actually made it really clear that my marriage wasn't tenable, right? And it's actually helped me process that now that we actually have a good relationship, like a healthy co-parenting relationship. That
um,
doesn't mean it's perfect, but I could not have got there
yeah,
without grief work. I
yeah,
just couldn't have. And it allows me to be healthier and my boundaries around my current partner.
Yeah.
and what that looks like in combining families. It helps me in boundaries with my business partners who
Yeah.
are all very different and all very specialized. And so I think it's just like if I had one tool in my back pocket, I think it's got to be grief work. It's what's helped me evolve.
And it's so funny that you said that. It was one of your business meetings that I came to, and we were going around talking, you have so much time with a certain amount of people, and then you go and talk to other people.
Yep.
I introduced myself, and one he said, "Oh, I don't need you. I won't need you for a very long time. No one is going to die in my life." And I just went, "Mm, okay," because people don't understand grief is so multifaceted, but grief can be a loss of a pet, a move, a loss of a job. It can be codependency because we do a lot of timelines where like
Yeah.
completely out of the box where
The
you
thing
like,
that even the thing that surprised me is grief wasn't inherently negative.
no.
Grief was really affiliated and associated with change. And I'm like, oh my God, I've had so much change,
Yes,
right? And part of that is not creating space to process all of the change, thereby creating the grief. It's an endless cycle if you don't know how to deal with it. Um, and again, like obviously I'm a believer. I showed up to be on a podcast.
yeah,
Um, we haven't done any grief work together in a couple of years, but I still use a lot of those practices regularly because they are part of my life.
yeah,
And just thinking about, oh, that's a much better way to process. It's healthier. I get to create space around things. And it serves not just me, but it serves all the people in my life.
yes, agreed. Absolutely. Especially when you have children and yours are younger and they're formative, you're
They're not
teaching
younger
them.
anymore,
I know.
Cynthia.
Well,
I have
comparatively,
teens. I know.
I
I
know.
have
Well,
teens now.
I know.
But when I started this work, they were itty bitty.
Yeah. But that
And that
that
was,
that's a game changer. Like when I started doing the work, I know it was a game changer for my kids. My daughter is
yeah,
now a grief counselor herself. And one of my kids is working with one of my grief counselors because they've seen the benefit of it in my life. And I gave them space to grieve and what that was and what that looked like in healthy boundaries. And um yeah, so the whole piece of all of that. And we do some neurosomatic work with some people when they have that opportunity. And that can be very profound because you can sometimes go back and get at a particular point where some grief thing in there because they use the neurosomatics with the NLP. And that piece can be like, oh my God, that's when I made a major decision that really served me. Let's flip that. So
yeah,
yeah.
awesome,
Yeah.
awesome.
I'm glad that it's, you know, uh kind of moving forward with you as far as in the business world, but even seeing it like, wow, at some point this will be great for my clients because they'll be more
Yeah,
to make their
I
business.
think that's the hardest thing about the whole modality because it's still not mainstream.
No. No.
And I wish people could see before and afters because you have so many success stories,
Yeah.
right? And people are just like, it's a thing. It's like, yeah, it's a thing. And I've done it. And I put in the work and I'm super grateful for that. Um, my word of caution to anyone is you cannot do it half in,
Yeah. I
right? You have to say, hey, this is something I need, and then I submerge myself because it's important.
yeah, it's almost like deciding not to take care of yourself after you do the surgery. You're like, then you might as well just not do the surgery, right? And
Yeah.
I ask people minimally think of it as a 6 month. And some people can get through a lot in 6 months and they're in a good place. But minimally think of it that way. If you need more, great. If there's a little less, that's great. When you're coming with, usually, I don't get too many people like I'm actually, working with some kids right now, which is like gift, blows my mind. Thank you. However, just like people in their 20s, whatever, there's a lot already there. Like their
Yes.
timelines are like this long to begin with. You're like, okay, it's a good thing we're starting here because now you have a tool for the rest of your life
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah. Yep,
Well, I really appreciate your taking your time with me.
for
And
sure.
yeah, this was awesome.
Well, when
And
you asked, I'm like, of course. And again, I apologize for getting our schedules crossed. I thought last week was the opportunity to learn about it. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, this is not.
that's
So we
all good.
scheduled
You know
today and
what?
we made it happen.
I, for me, I just, when I said that little thing, it's like, I know people's time is valuable. So if you could just give me a half an hour, here's the couple questions I'll ask you. Come. So, well, thank you everyone for listening. And I hope you have a calm heart to guide you till you talk to you again. You have a great rest of your day. Bye.